Access Tech Live.
Microsoft ushers in a new era of Windows PCs, Google's accessibility discovery centers, and competing in the Cybathlon.
This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Mark Aflalo. The latest in tech and accessibility every week. Follow us now and get involved at Access Tech Live.
Welcome to the show. I am Mark Aflalo. One more week without Stephen Scott. But don't worry, sitting in this chair this week is the wonderful, cuddly Alex Smythe. Alex, thank you for sitting in Stephen's chair this week. It's nice to have you here.
Not a problem, Mark. I don't think I've been described as cuddly on TV before, so I appreciate that. It's a novel approach to have an introduction like that.
I was trying to come up with something, friendly and approachable. That's what came to mind, I guess, because there's a stuffy in the corner here, a little stuffed Stephen Scott that I'm staring at. That keeps me cozy at night. You introduced me to a very cool event called the Cybathlon. We're going to be talking to the organizers of that event coming up on this week's show, and we're also going to be talking to a Canadian team competing from the BC Institute of Technology all about the Cybathlon. Tell me a little bit about where you discovered it, because I'm really curious about not only the event, but it's a global event that puts people on an incredible stage.
Yeah, so this actually takes me back to the AMI This Week days when I first came across Cybathlon. I was looking for unique stories involving disability, things on a bigger scale, because a lot of the stories that we did cover, it was very much community-focused, community-oriented, but I wanted a bigger story, something I could maybe follow along as a documentary. And I discovered back for the 2020 event, there was a Canadian team that was competing, and that's kind of where I first found out. I was like, oh, what are they doing? Because I was like looking at, I think it was University of Alberta within robotics. It's like, what is this event? And then I kind of went to the event page. It's like, oh my goodness, this is phenomenal. You have all these different teams from across the world bringing innovation, engineering, technology, all with a focus around improving access and accessibility and inclusion for folks with disabilities. So I thought it was a phenomenal event. I wanted to learn more, so I'm just happy we get to dive into it today.
Hey, listen, this is what I do. I get people involved and I find out what they're interested in so we can have a little bit of fun. So we're going to be doing that a bit later on in the show. And of course, also this week, we're going to be talking to Google's Christopher Patno all about their accessibility discovery centers that are opening up all over the globe. But first, let's kick things off this week with the headlines.
Now, Access Tech Live headlines.
So let's start with Microsoft. In an event earlier this week, Microsoft took the wraps off of its future vision for the Windows PC, one that they are calling Copilot+ Windows PCs. The PCs all feature the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon X processors, which boast all-day battery life and access to what Microsoft is saying are the most advanced AI models. Now, AI is at the core, and the new Copilot+ PCs all run it directly on the device to cut down the latency and improve the privacy. New features include a whole bunch of them, including Recall, which gives the PC a photographic memory, so to speak, so users can access anything they've done or seen on their PC across websites, applications, even documents. Here's Microsoft's Carolina Hernandez describing an example.
My family and I have been searching for the perfect dress for my grandmother, who lives in Colombia, to wear at my cousin's wedding. I've been browsing Pinterest and shopping websites for some options that I can share with her. After looking for options for a few weeks, I wanted to go back and see some of the favorite blue dresses I have found, but I didn't keep all my browser tabs open. With Recall, I can just search for blue dress, and it pulls together all the dresses I have seen. Now, Grandma decided that she wanted to get the awesome pantsuit that we shared in our Discord chat about 3 weeks ago. Now, scrolling through multiple weeks of chat messages to find that specific dress would have taken an eternity. Instead, with Recall, it was easy. I refined my search using descriptive language. Blue pantsuit with a sequin lace from Abuelita. And as you can see, Recall quickly found the Discord chat my family and I were using to discuss the options. And here it is, the dress that Abuelita liked.
So cool. I wonder if that's more creepy than cool, but we'll find out as we get to use it. Another feature is Co-Creator. It's a feature that uses text prompts to generate images and can create art based on those text inputs. There's even a slider to choose your range between more literal and more expressive depending on what you want. Another one is Restyle Image. This is a tool that combines image generation and photo editing. You can use preset styles to change backgrounds, foregrounds, or even full images. One of my favorites is live caption support. This offers live translation support and can turn any audio that passes through your PC, think about that one, into a single English language captioned experience in real time across any app on the computer. Both live and pre-recorded audio in any app, like YouTube, for example, or maybe a video conferencing call on any video platform can be translated from 40 languages into English. And finally, quick settings. This new feature cleans up video with automatic image adjustments. Now, Microsoft also unveiled their updated PCs, the first Surface laptop and the new Surface Pro, featuring those new Qualcomm Snapdragon processors. Let's take a listen.
Introducing the first ever Copilot+ PCs from Surface, the all-new Surface Laptop and Surface Pro. They have been designed and engineered to be the ultimate Copilot+ PCs, and these are the most powerful laptop and Pro we have ever built. They come with the longest battery life we have ever delivered, and compared to previous Surface generations, it isn't even close.
Now, Microsoft is claiming the Copilot+PCs can outperform the 15-inch MacBook Air by up to 58%, while also offering longer battery life. All devices are available to pre-order right now and will be hitting shelves in June. Now, all the aforementioned features and items were showcased on, of course, those new Surface devices and the Surface Laptop, the first Microsoft devices to feature Copilot+. Meanwhile, other manufacturers took the lid off of their offerings on Monday as well, including computers from Acer, Dell, HP, Lenovo, and Samsung. Let's move over to AI a bit, because last week, if you remember, all those exciting announcements from OpenAI, well, not everybody was excited, especially actress Scarlett Johansson, who claims that OpenAI may have used her voice in their latest iteration of ChatGPT. The actress was indeed approached by OpenAI Sam Altman about using her voice, but she turned the offer down. To everyone's surprise, ChatGPT's voice that they call Sky sounds eerily similar to Johansson, although OpenAI claims it is not her. This is a developing story that opens up the question of human versus AI voices especially, and more importantly, what is or isn't our intellectual property when it comes to our personal likeness? I can guarantee you the story is not over yet. Google is teaming up with HP to bring its futuristic lifelike video conferencing technology to life in offices. It's called Project Starline. It was first demoed in 2021 at Google I/O and involved a 3D video chat booth projecting the person you're talking to. It was very lifelike. So Google and HP have streamlined the process in the system and simplified it to remove the booth and make it all work on a large TV with cameras. HP will be integrating the technology into common video conferencing apps like Google Meet and even Zoom to create a more immersive collaboration experience that stands out beyond the standard everyday chat. AirTags and item trackers are all the rage, but unfortunately, since their introduction, they've been used for some pretty not-so-great things like stalking and even tracking people. Google and Apple recognize that and have come together to launch an industry standard they're calling Detected Unwanted Location Trackers. The technology was actually announced in 2023, but it's now available in the latest version of iOS, which is 17.5. Devices running that new software will be alerted on your iOS device or Android device if a Bluetooth tracker owned by somebody else is actually being used to track them. There'll even be an option to play a sound on that tracker to help locate it, and your phone will provide details on how to disable it. Finally, a new groundbreaking suite of therapy apps have been released specifically for neurodiverse children. The suite is called Goally, Goally, and it's specifically designed for kids with autism and ADHD. It comes on a dedicated tablet, and it's designed to provide a safe and educational digital environment free from all that toxic content like social media. It helps develop critical executive functioning skills that are needed for independence by combining a visual scheduler, token boards, and more in an easy-to-use app. Parents can, of course, customize tasks, set reminders, and even monitor progress in real time through a parent version of the app as well. Goally helps build routines and enhance focus to empower kids to achieve their best. Really cool stuff going on this week, Alex. I mean, I'm sure that you're wondering as well as I am, how creepy is that recall feature from Microsoft? How much does it actually remember if you're surfing? And will you remember that you're actually surfing and it's recording you?
Well, absolutely, yeah. We can access every single file, document, conversation you've had on our device, and we can pull it up. Well, that's great that you're storing this, locally on the device so far, but as we know with tech companies, sometimes your information, your data Oh, it doesn't necessarily stay with you. So those are kind of the questions I have around something like Copilot. Cautiously optimistic. I like to put myself in that camp because I like to believe that it can serve a higher purpose. I just have some hesitations, Mark.
Alex, every week we do a question of the week, and this week's question is a fun one, not related to really anything that we're even talking about today, but who is your most iconic video game character? Of course, you'd expect that this goes absolutely crazy online, which it absolutely did. And, by the time we're doing the show now, there's probably a whole bunch more. So if you want to get involved, connect with us on all our social media platforms at Access Tech Live. You can find us there on YouTube, and you name it, you'll find us. And you can email us feedback@accesstechlive.com as well to get involved. And Alex will ask you the question a bit later on in the show to get your take as well. But coming up, global competition to develop assistive tech for people with disabilities. It's called the Cybathlon, and we'll be speaking to one of the co-heads of the organization next here on Access Tech Live.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. The show will return in less than a minute. Access Tech Live will be back in 30 seconds. This is Access Tech Live.
Welcome back. This is Access Tech Live. I'm Mark Aflalo with Alex Smythe sitting in for the vacationing Stephen Scott. He'll be back next week. So the Cybathlon is a competition that challenges teams from around the globe to develop assistive technology for everyday use by people with disabilities. It's happening in Switzerland this October, and we'll be talking to a Canadian team that's actually competing. But first, joining us now is the co-head of the Cybathlon, Annie Kern. Welcome to the show, Annie. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Annie, I want to start off with this. Where did the idea for Cybathlon come from, and why did you want to create this international competition?
So I'm actually a professor at ETH Zurich, so the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, where we are a non-profit project of. He had the idea in 2013. He was inspired by a guy who was the first person climbing the Willis Towers in Chicago with a leg prosthesis. And he was aware that a lot of universities and labs are developing assistive technology for any kind of disabilities. And most of them didn't really develop the devices with the person with disability together, and the prototypes never made it to the end users. So the Willis tower climbing got a lot of attention, and then he had the idea that a competition with a rules book and daily life task would be a good idea to promote this development of assistive technology and to show it to a broader audience and to show the fascination of this kind of technology.
I find that so cool, and I understand teams are made up of developers of what you guys call pilots who compete in 8 different disciplines, right?
Yes, we call them pilots because it's for us always very important that the person is able to control the technology. So the technology has to be safe. That technology shouldn't be controlled or control the pilot, but the pilot should be the master of the technology at all times. That's why we are calling them pilots.
And so what kind of challenges do you face putting on a international competition of this sort where you're trying to kind of push forward accessibility and inclusion, but also innovation from the technical aspects?
Yes, so there are different kind of challenges. The first one is to make the event accessible for persons with disabilities. So we have a stadium in Zurich, and we have the challenge, for example, for blind people, that they can have like a live audio description in a hall. I don't know how it is in Canada, but we don't really have it in Europe that you can go to an event and have an audio description or someone telling you what's going on at the competition. And then the other one is that we are always streaming our competitions on our website. So we have to make this accessible for blind people, for people who are deaf, for people that cannot access events or computer or halls. We will build a big wheelchair stand in the stadium. So we rebuilt the whole stadium. It's an ice hockey stadium, so that we have more wheelchair places, about 100 for all the pilots, for audience, and for other people that would like to come to the event. And this is challenging because it's always very expensive, which is not fair, I think. But there are a lot of things that are not yet really developed. For example, for audio description or for sign language. And we try to develop them and making them better for people with certain kind of disabilities.
Annie, I have to assume that people coming out there are really pushing the boundaries of what they can do with technology, specifically in assistive technology. How do you see the Cybathlon contributing to the advancements in assistive tech and in accessibility globally?
Yeah, so we want development teams to work with the end user together. So if you train and receive the feedback from the person with the certain kind of disabilities, it really helps you to develop a meaningful device that is used. You don't have to develop the most expensive or most fancy device. You have to build a device that supports a person in their daily life so that they can participate in social or political life. This is one thing I think we contribute. The other thing is that we our team is developing a races and rules book every 4 years. So every 4 years we sit together with people with disabilities and experts from all kind of technology areas and create tasks that the devices in the different races cannot really do yet. And so that we push this development further every 4 years. So if maybe exoskeletons. So in this year's competition, we have the first time a task where exoskeletons or the pilot has to walk without crutches. So this means that the development teams have to come up with a solution how the whole robotic suit is stabilizing a paraplegic person. So, and we are very excited about or looking forward to how many teams can already do it, that the person with an exoskeleton can walk without crutches. Then you are even more independent than with the crutches.
And Annie, as you mentioned, you and your team are constantly trying to push forward the boundaries of accessibility and development of technology. In terms of like the past events, like are there any like memories or moments that stand out to you as being truly special or ones that shine just when you have these types of breakthroughs, or whether it's from the teams or the pilots or even yourself, and just thinking, wow, like we're creating something special here?
Yes, we create something special. No, I don't think there's one story or one moment that stands out. I think that in 2016, when we had or organized the first Cybathlon, we were as a small team overwhelmed by the success we had with the media, with internationally, with the teams, with other universities, because we created people with disability and without disability. We created an atmosphere that everything is possible. And there were so many. You have these student teams and tech developer that they developed something for a person, and this person is so happy. It was just such a great atmosphere. And every competition and event we organized since that, it never loses this, because you always think like, yes, he or she did it and the whole team did it, and that's a very creative solution, and this is a very strange, weird looking device, but it's good. So this makes it extremely interesting how everyone works together to a common goal, to a society goal.
Annie, one thing I want to kind of pick up on too is, you talked about, okay, you're developing different challenges in different disciplines every 4 years. Is there a area or focus that maybe that you weren't able to kind of bring into this year's competition, but maybe down the road, is there like, whether it's a discipline or a disability that you would like to see more progress made in?
So in the last 8 years, our team evaluated other disciplines or other technologies, like, for example, soft exoskeletons. But it's very hard to make a fair competition, because we don't have, like, when you compare it a little bit to the Paralympics, you have in a discipline a lot of different inclusion criteria. And we have per discipline one inclusion criteria, and it's hard to make meaningful tasks or to develop meaningful tasks and then make an attractive and fair competition for the teams. So at the moment, we are good with our 8 disciplines, because also some parts of the devices of a different discipline can be used in another discipline, or the assistance robot race is very similar to the wheelchair race. There is only the inclusion criteria a little bit different. So yeah, it's hard to differentiate, and at the moment we stay with this. But I think the most promising discipline is the brain-computer interface race, with your brain steering an avatar with your brain waves. So this is going to be, I think, one of the most attractive disciplines in the future.
Annie, it's such an exciting event. We're going to be following it online, of course. If people want to follow it, what's the website they can go to?
It's cybathlon.com. It's also in October on the 3 days we have a live page, and all races will be streamed. You can find the program on the website, and you can follow us on the website and see all the live streams and all the races from 25th of October until the 27th. You can also
Thank you
come
for joining
to
us.
Zurich.
We're definitely gonna follow it for sure, and we definitely want to have you back on next year and talk about that event and talk about the disciplines. Thank you for joining us. Coming up on the show, what is it like to compete at the Cybathlon? Well, and what's involved in preparing for it? We'll talk to BCIT, a Canadian team that's competing this year. After a quick break here on Access Tech Live.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. The show will return in less than a minute. Access Tech Live will be back in 30 seconds. Now, back to Access Tech Live.
Back on the show, Mark Aflalo and Alex Smythe sitting in for Stephen Scott. So we heard from the co-head of the Cybathlon, but what's it like to compete on such a global stage? Joining us now is Jamie Borisoff, a professor at the British Columbia Institute of Technology and part of the BCI team that will be competing at this October at the Cybathlon. Jamie, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here.
So, Jamie, why did you want to get involved with the BCIT team and compete at the Cybathlon?
Well, for, I guess, a variety of reasons. We've been working in this area for, well, probably a decade, trying to develop better assistive technologies, especially around wheelchair design. So it's something we do, something we love to do, something we go after funding opportunities and different grants and partners and that sort of thing to try to really innovate in that area. So we're in the space, and we came across the Cybathlon many years ago. Actually, I remember watching the first competition online and seeing all the good stuff coming out of it, and really getting a good understanding that this is a competition that really fosters research and development, fosters innovation, and just forces you to really innovate and be part of something, you know, that spurs you forward really and brings in excitement and dollars and people to work on these hard problems.
And it pushes accessibility forward, which is so cool and which, you know, works perfectly well with our mission here. Can you describe the specific tech or innovation that your team has developed for this year's competition?
We are entering a wheelchair into the wheelchair competition. As you probably know, there's 10 different competitions or disciplines at the Cybathlon. We're entering the wheelchair competition. Our goal in the biggest picture is to innovate in the space of actually manual wheelchairs and not power wheelchairs. But one of the big thrusts over the last decade in manual wheelchairs is attaching electrical motors and accessories and different devices to manual wheelchairs to make them more capable, give them more features, more power, more function to do different tasks in the community. So we our broad goal is to use a manual wheelchair with attachments to enter a power wheelchair competition, which is kind of exciting. Now, that's a broad goal. That's going to take us a few years to get to it. Right now, we will be entering a power wheelchair. But when we make decisions about how to design different parts, different features, we're doing it under the guidance of wanting to eventually make these into modular attachments to a manual wheelchair.
How has this whole process kind of created more appreciation for the challenges around inclusion and accessibility for folks with disabilities and kind of the issues and barriers they face on a daily basis? Well,
we've been in this space for a long time, so I guess it hasn't opened up too many more understanding of the issues. We know what they are. What it's really done, I think, is really given us some really good insight into how difficult it is to tackle some of these issues. And it's really interesting, right? Because we're trying to design a wheelchair that goes upstairs, and as I think your team knows, and listeners know, well, it would be better to change the environment, right? To make stairs less of an issue. So it's interesting to start thinking about these trade-offs, right? Between what kind of piece of technology can do and what can we do as a community or society to alter the environment. That being said, one of the areas that we're really keen on that is not quite part of this Cybathlon competition, but part of our broader goals is accessibility in the natural environment. I would like to see wheelchairs be able to go on beaches and into trails and into forests and these areas that, we don't want to pave them. We don't want to make them necessarily easy to get to in the sense of taking away from what makes the natural environment really unique and interesting. So that's where we think that, devices and better designs can help.
Jamie, events like the Cybathlon really are kind of interesting because it's creating a challenge, but at the same time, it's raising a lot of awareness about, disability and promoting inclusivity. What role do you think the Cybathlon has in that scope? Obviously, it opened my world up. I didn't know about it before this, and obviously we're down this rabbit hole. But do you think it plays a pretty significant role in raising awareness about disability and inclusion?
I think absolutely it does. It probably plays a role similar to what the Paralympics does for sport and disability. Obviously, both these. I look at it in a lot of the same way. I've actually been at the Paralympics as a competitor as well, and you actually, and that's one of the reasons I think I've been so interested in the Cybathlon as well from a engineering standpoint. It kind of has that parallel with the Paralympic sport, and any city that hosts the Paralympics all of a sudden becomes more accessible. The people there again become more aware of the issues and start seeing people with disabilities do all these amazing things. The Cybathlon is doing the same thing. And I think they're doing a lot better job now too of having these satellite competitions, just having it more televised, having more streaming, having more access to the world to see these events and see what's happening. And we hopefully we'll see the same things happening here. We expect BCIT. We already know with BCIT as an institution is getting behind our competition entrance, and they're going to be talking about us. They're going to be showcasing what we're doing, and that's going to bring great awareness here locally, and at the same time, probably through streaming and other means, and through TV shows like yourself, bring that much in a broader sense as well.
I'm sure there's been a lot of moments in this journey and leading up to this competition of both breakthroughs and maybe setbacks. As you mentioned, you are entering a manual wheelchair into a power chair competition. Are there any moments that really stand out to you that you have that are memorable in this journey so far from when you started to where we are now?
Well, the first time we were able to go up the staircase, which was pretty exciting. That's, technically from a power standpoint and stability standpoint, probably the most difficult of our tasks that we have to do. So that was exciting, being able to do that. On the flip side is when something is broken. One of our frames has broken in the middle of the staircase, for instance. So that's the flip side of these things. They're exciting on one hand, and of course when it does break, we learn something as well. So we don't take it very as negatively as one might, because we're going to learn something from the setbacks as well.
Jamie, I find that it's kind of interesting because this almost gamifies development and pushes it forward and kind of adds that competition element of things. What's the reaction been from your team in terms of motivation to compete? Does it drive them a little bit more because they're going against other people?
I think you're absolutely right. It does gamify things. It makes the competition is, I think, important to the success. Everybody on our team has a kind of a competitive spirit. They have a background in different active things in life. Mountain biking, for instance, one of our guys is a surfer. Obviously, there's myself with Paralympic sport background. So I think as a team, we're very much interested in that and respond to that well. It's been great. Deadlines are important as well in any kind of project management when you're trying to kind of big things, having deadlines and milestones. That just really makes you get things done.
Love it. I love it. We're definitely going to be following the team, of course, Jamie, and of course the whole BCI team and yourself. And we hope to chat more with you after. I'd love to hear about the experience. Obviously, it's not the first time, but I'd love to hear about the development after the event, obviously this October.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to come back and tell you how we did.
Thank you, Jamie. Good luck in October. When we return, Google's opening accessibility discovery centers, but what are they? And why are they important? Google's Christopher Patno is with us next here on Access Tech Live.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. The show will return in less than a minute. Access Tech Live will be back in 30 seconds. Back to Access Tech Live.
Back on the show, Google's been in the news a lot lately, coming off their annual developers conference just last week. Christopher Patno is the company's head of accessibility and disability inclusion, and he's also the founder of Google's ADC, Accessibility Discovery Centers. Stephen may not be here this week, but he caught up with Christopher to talk all about them, including a new one in Ireland.
I'm thrilled to say that we've opened our second ADC. This one is in Ireland.
That's amazing. Now, tell for people who don't know, explain what the ADC is, and we'll get into the history of it. But let's start with what ADC actually stands for.
Yeah, so ADC stands for the Accessibility Discovery Center. This is the sort of the second generation of ADCs that we have. The first ones we have were in the U.S. and in Mountain View in New York, and they were internally focused to help make Googlers understand what does it take to make your products accessible, introduce them to assistive technology, and the like. But in London, we had a lot more space, so we got excited about let's open it up to the world. So we've come, by the time this episode is going to be broadcast, we will have passed the 3,000 person mark since December 2022 of people coming into a London ADC. So what that means is we've had a huge number of people who want to understand what is accessibility, why is it important, how can we make our products more inclusive, how can we make our work culture more inclusive. And we've had everything from the UK shadow cabinet all the way to local borough school kids doing school tours and charities and businesses and universities and the like, but it's been remarkably successful. So we asked, is any other site willing to do this? And Dublin stepped up first. So they are the first site outside of London for this externally facing ADC, and it's the first one in the EU.
That's incredible. That is fantastic. And like you say, first in the EU, which of course sticks in our craw over here in the UK a little bit because, you know, we used to be part of that thing called the EU, but let's not go there. Let's just park that one. Listen, you mentioned that these ADCs started off internally. And I think it's really important to dig into that because, of course, the key point there was to, as you say, educate people who work at the company about accessibility. I think sometimes we get wrapped up in this idea that because Google is a company that prides itself on making products as accessible as possible, that it is just ingrained in everyone's knowledge across the organization. But of course, it just can't be, can it? It's not possible for every single person to know every single nuance of accessibility. So that's why I guess these are so successful. Do you think that that has actually helped in product development and making all the products more accessible across Google?
I think so, and for a couple of reasons. One, well, I do want to say that anyone who comes into Google, especially in our engineering organizations, they have to take training in accessibility. So everyone that comes through the door is taught about accessibility at the very beginning. It's part of our onboarding process. But once you learn about how to do accessibility, we need to partner with the community to make our products accessible. So we need to do partner research. So half of the ADC site that we have in London is dedicated to that conversation of what's broken, what's working, what's not working. What I'm really stoked about, and pardon my Californianism, is when we were first starting to build the ADC here in London, we were talking to Robin Spinks from the RNIB. And he's been a great partner with us. And he said, you know, the Pixel camera is a really good camera. I wish you guys could make a magnifier out of it. And we talked about it, and I said, you know, that'd be a really cool idea. Will you help me come up with some ideas? So we put together the description, and we convinced the Pixel team to build the new digital magnifier that's on Pixel, and it came out of the ADC. So we can point to that as proof that the whole inclusive design process, you design with and co-design with the community, changes how you do things, and in some cases creates entirely new products.
And it actually allows you to connect with people in a way that I guess maybe there's other parts of tech organizations, tech companies that would maybe be jealous of this, right? Because when do you get the chance to sit down with the people who are actually using the technology? And it seems in our accessibility world, there is more of an opportunity for us to connect with companies. Now, Google, I have to say, you've gone a lot further as a company than perhaps I think other companies have. I mean, lots of companies have done great work in the world of accessibility. We know that. But actually reaching out and saying, here is a place you can come, and here is a place you can come and see us and talk to us and ask questions and come up with ideas just like that. You know, hey, the Pixel camera could be a great magnifier. You know, that conversation may not have happened had it not been for that center. Exactly. So I guess you must be really proud of that.
I'm super proud, and I'll admit it was a bit of a risk because no one had ever done anything like this before. We took a chance, and it's paid off. The ability for us to communicate with the community, whether it's the blindness community, the low vision community, the deaf or hard of hearing communities, we have tools that can make their lives better in many ways. But if you don't know about it, it can't do you any good. So this is a space that's given us a chance to sort of share what's cool and what's helpful, but at the same time have them say, you know, I like that, but this would make it better for me. So having that conversation, so the teaching and listening, the humility, knowing that you're never going to get it perfect for everyone. So come and listen to how we screw it up to make it okay for you, knowing that you're going to screw it up, because nothing is perfect for everyone, especially when you start considering the broad spectrum of needs of people with disabilities. Something that's accessible for one person is not accessible for another. So perfection can't be the goal. The process of inclusion, the process of iteration, realizing that you just need to keep going and coming back to it. That's what makes products better. That's what makes products more inclusive. It's the humble iteration, not some mythical day that AI is going to save the day.
Tell me about an example. I'm sure there's many, but I'm intrigued if there's anyone who's come in with no knowledge at all about accessibility, has come to the ADC Centre in London or perhaps the new one in Dublin and said, okay, I know nothing about this, tell me something. And as a result, something great has happened.
There's been a couple of companies that after tours and sort of follow-on conversations, because they've actually made changes to the product line. So one I don't want to name names because I don't want to shame anyone for having not done it before, but I know of two companies at this time that have made changes and made commitments to change their product lines to make it accessible for a tour and to follow on conversations to sort of fill in some blanks.
And you must be proud. I mean, you know, as you say, this started internally, but now this is external in London, in the UK, and now in Dublin. And you know, I know we can talk about what's maybe coming up, but, you know, the fact is that it's happening here, and it feels like it's kind of in this new way happening here on this side of the world first. Kind of unusual, right? These things tend to start in the US, for example, especially with Google being a US company. You would imagine that things would start from there, but how do you feel about it, sort of starting from here, from your perspective, having the ability to lead this? It must be quite a moment for you.
Well, yes, I'm proud. But I think what we have is an opportunity. It's the right time and place to have these kinds of conversations. I came from the US to London in July of 2021. And the pitch that I pitched my job was using the European Accessibility Act. I wanted to come out here and get Google ready for the European Accessibility Act, and this work is well underway. There's so many international companies here in London. Dublin is in the EU. We're talking about building more places on the continent, on the mainland, over the next year. So there's going to be more ADCs helping with these conversations of making your products inclusive and accessible, because we have to if we want to sell in the EU.
And it's also important to note, and I noticed it firsthand when I was at CES in Amsterdam last year, is the number of companies in Europe that are focused on accessibility. I noticed it myself at CES. Now, that's, again, a major American event reaching out into Europe, because even they're noticing that there are so many companies out there who want to make accessible products, who want to make great products, that are perhaps not getting the spotlight. And so that's why they set up CES Amsterdam. But when I was there, so many companies were focused on accessibility. It's a tool for the public good. Would you agree?
Yes, but I'm an optimist. I'm one of these hippies from California that want to change the world. We have this space to make our products better. Our leadership and our business has recognized the value as a relationship builder with other companies. But you're right, it's not a Google sales space. I have Microsoft Kit in the Xbox Adaptive Controller. I have the new PS5 access controller. I have an iPad showing off Apple's excellent live speech tool, and I have our tools as well. So it's not a place to sell Google, it's a place to sell accessibility and the value of disability inclusion.
And you do speak and spend time with the accessibility heads in other organizations, don't you? I mean, I think I've walked into a meeting once where you were standing there with Microsoft and Apple, and I was even quite surprised at the fact you all talk to each other. But this is something you pride yourselves on. You actually do communicate. Accessibility is not seen as a competitive area. I mean, it is, because obviously, you know, well, of course, right, it is a competitive area, but, you know, the foundational elements of it are about inclusion, and that even applies across companies.
It does. We will compete tooth and nail on the features, who has the best features, who has the best support. But in the end, it's all about supporting the community. So that's where we work together. You take a look at the Accessible Speech Project, which is in the US, about providing non-typical speech data to help voice assistants and voice language models be more inclusive of people, say, with dysarthric speech or Down speech. Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta all came together and is working with a university in Illinois to house and process the speech data. So we work together where it makes sense, and we work together to support the community. But it's wonderful to have competition because it keeps us sharp. It keeps us doing really interesting things.
Well, we should definitely bring Access Tech Live to an Accessibility Discovery Center. I think that has to happen, so that you can talk me around all of this wonderful stuff. It'd be amazing to do. Congratulations again on the work you're doing at Google. It's an amazing job. I know whenever you come into a room at an event, people just are drawn to you. And I know you don't like to make it about you, but someone has to start this ball rolling, and you're doing it, and it's a great piece of work. So I just want to say thank you from the community to you.
Thank you, and I just have to say it is really about the community. This was driven by the community. I have a community of people here we're all working together, and only by working together can we make the impact that we want to have.
It's Google's Christopher Patno with Stephen Scott. Coming up, our question of the week. Who is your most iconic video game character? Marnie wrote in and said Miss Pac-Man, and we got an email from Sarah that said Yoshi, but what's your answer? We're going to find out after a quick break here on Access Tech Live. Don't go anywhere.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. The show will return in less than a minute. Access Tech Live will be back in 30 seconds. This is Access Tech Live.
Welcome back to the show. Wrapping things up, I am Mark Aflalo. Alex Smythe with me. Alex, did you survive?
I did. It's a lot easier doing a 1 hour show after you've done a 2 hour show in the morning, Mark. So I can get used to this 1 hour time slot.
So every week we do the question of the week, and this one's a fun one. Who is your most iconic video game character? The only challenge with these questions, Alex, is this is like a one-word answer for most people. So when you're trying to fill time, it doesn't really work very well. But what would your answer be?
Well, okay. This is just the perfect question for me because I am a video game nerd, lover, however you want to describe me. This is so hard because I think it's very much generational. And I don't just mean age generation, I mean video game generation. Because you go back to the very beginning, like early days, Pong, Pac-Man, that is a very iconic for that generation. But then you move into the arcade days. What about Mortal Kombat with Raiden or Sub-Zero or Scorpion or Ryu from Street Fighter? You have that generation of game. Then you get into the Nintendos with the Marios and the Pikachus for Game Boy. It's so iconic. For me, though, because I've been a fan and a follower of Xbox, as long as they've been around, I'm gonna go with Halo's Master Chief. An iconic character, never took the helmet off. You didn't really kind of see them do much in terms of interacting because it was a first-person shooter. You're usually behind the controls of this character. You're embodying that character, but just the silhouette, the action, the look are so iconic and really launched Microsoft's gaming universe that has expanded 3 generations now.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I was talking about this with Dave this morning on Now with Dave Brown, and so many other names came to my mind. I didn't even realize how many video game characters I knew out there. And I guess a lot of these characters are immortalized through movies, like Sonic the Hedgehog and different, different characters that we've seen in movies over the time. So let's get to some of the answers. Tara wrote in and said Iron Man. Now, is Iron Man a video game character as much as a comic book character?
Well, this is what I was trying to figure out. It's I know there's tons of Marvel and comic book games, but I think Iron Man much more early on was the comic book and then the movies. But that said, Iron Man has been front and center in most of those Marvel video games thanks to the kind of the explosion of the MCU. So I would accept it.
Okay, I'll take it. So we'll include that one. Ryan wrote in and said Mario, of course. I mean, you can't get more iconic, I think, than Mario. And that's just so telling of that generation, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, something so basic, but look how many games, the sheer volume of games Nintendo has been able to put out with Mario as that main character. That, it's hard to beat just on sheer volume alone.
So Jeff wrote in and said Pac-Man, which is, of course, good. And I checked social media, and Marnie wrote in and said Miss Pac-Man. So we got those 2 over there. Neil wrote in and said Dig Dug. I don't even know who is Dig Dug. Do you know Dig Dug?
Not off the top of my head. I think that was an early generation character.
And finally, Jessica wrote in and said Princess Peach. So that's a natural one as well. So if you guys want to get involved, we'll keep the question up on social media for the rest of the week until we swap things out. And do let us know how you feel. Alex, thank you for sitting in Steven's chair. I appreciate you being here. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for bringing up the Cybathlon. Of course, it was really nice to learn about that. And of course, BCIT.
Hey, no, thank you so much for having me. It's always great to catch up with you on your show instead of just on the one I work on normally.
Thank you guys for joining us every single week. We'll be back next week with Steven Scott. I assume he's coming back. On behalf of everybody this week, I am Mark Aflalo. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Access Tech Live. Follow us online on all social media at Access Tech Live. Email us feedback@accesstechlive.com. Hosted by Stephen Scott in Glasgow and Mark Aflalo in Montreal. Live show director, Anastasia Spalding-Stenhouse. Technical director, Caitlin Robinson. Audio, Jordan Mulgrave. Live graphics and playback, James Kennedy. Graphics coordinator, Eliza Rocco. Integrated Described video specialist, M. Williams. Supervising producer, Michelle Dudas. Produced in collaboration with Aflalo Communications, Inc. and Double Tap Productions. Copyright 2024, Accessible Media, Inc.
An AMI original production.